to my point about people being frustrated, because Prince William appeared on the BBC this week, I think it was Radio 1, and there was some criticism that he wasn't asked about his Uncle Andrew, but it's a similar thing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, William faces the same issues as his father does. And also I would point out that that was a very specific thing about male suicide, and it wasn't a news programme, it was more of a kind of feature thing. I understand what people are saying, but I still would want to ensure that Prince William speaks out about important issues like male suicide.
I mean, BBC is a news organisation and a taxpayer-funded news organisation, which I think is why people have
absolutely,
been...
and people saying his comments were reported on the news pages, which made made it look slightly like he hadn't been asked the difficult questions. But, I'm not here to answer for him, but all I can say is that William is subject to the same issues that his father is as well.
Does that sound like she's protecting him? Like, didn't that sound kind of like she's like, it's okay that he's not answering. Like, let him be. I don't know. That was a weird fucking statement. Yeah, the rapist's son, close friends with Epstein. Yep.
Do you think also what's playing into that situation with William is that one day our courts will be King William's courts? So he has to be careful, because we don't know how long this investigation and possible whether there's a trial. We don't know when all of that's going to happen.
No, absolutely. That's the point I was trying to make earlier, that this today is merely one step in what could be a very long process that we might not see concluded for weeks, months or years. And regardless of what happens, as I said earlier on, there is going to be a stain on the monarchy as a result of it. And it will cast a long shadow that will follow William.
So it's interesting she's talking about a stain, because look at what I found. Man who alleges Mountbatten abuse launches legal challenge. This came out in October 2022. This is their fucking uncle. A man who claims Lord Mountbatten abused him at a Belfast children's home has launched legal action against state institutions in Northern Ireland. Arthur Smith alleges the late Earl molested him twice in the 1970s while he lived at Kincora Boys' Home. Lawyers representing Mr. Smith lodged a writ of summons at the High Court. Lord Mountbatten is not referred to in the writ, but details of the alleged abuse will be set out in a finalized statement of claim to be served later. Mr. Smith, who has waived anonymity, is suing the Department of Health, the Secretary of State, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, Belfast Health, Social Care Trust, and the Business Services Organization BSO. The BSO provides business support and specialist services to the health and social care sector. Mr. Smith is seeking damages for alleged assault and battery, negligence, misfeasance in public office, and breach of statutory duty under the Children and Young Persons Act, Northern Ireland in 1968. Solicitor Kevin Winter said, quote, "In issuing this action, Arthur Smith has now put down a marker and taken the next important step in his battle to get justice over the horrific abuse suffered by him when he was a child. He wants the facts finally to emerge about his abuse generally and specific allegations about two separate incidences implicating the now deceased royal. Lord Mountbatten, a great uncle and mentor to King Charles III, was killed along with three others. I think it's important to know that one of them was a boat boy that was killed. Just saying. They're missing that part. It wasn't just one, it was a child. There was a boat boy on board. When the IRA blew up his fishing boat off the coast of Mulgamore, County Sligo in August 1978, wider proceedings brought up by the plaintiff relate to periods he spent as a child at three different facilities in Belfast, including Kincora in the east of the city. The home, which closed in 1980, was at the center of a major sex abuse scandal. 3 members of staff were later jailed for attacks on 11 boys. In 2017, an inquiry found that 39 39 residents were abused at some point during their time at Kinkora. According to Mr. Smith's lawyer, proceedings were only issued after receiving no response to formal letters of claim served on the defendants 3 weeks ago. So, this is a known thing about the Mountbattens. So, I just want to acknowledge that. Okay, thanks, Linton. How MI5 is helping to cover up sexual abuse. British governments have for decades sought to prevent a full inquiry into the horrifically abusive boys' home in Belfast, which helped promote their intelligence agenda. This was written in 2022. My God. Much publicity has given recently to the apology by political and religious leaders in Northern Ireland for the horrific sexual and emotional abuse young boys in care homes had suffered over many years. But one notorious home, the subject of a cover-up that remains unexplained there, was silence. The public apology was recommended more than 5 years ago in the final report of the Historical Institutional Abuse Inquiry, led by a former judge, Sir Anthony Hart. Hart revealed shocking levels of abuse in state, church, and charity-run home church, shocker, that first came to light more than 30 years ago. However, in common with senior police officers investigating the care homes, Hart brushed aside damaging and well-documented allegations of MI5's knowledge of the abuse. Crucial questions about why the abusive practices were ignored for so long remain unanswered. MI5's pressure. Kinkora, a boys' home in East Belfast, was run by William McGrath, a founder of Tara, a shadowy far-right group. McGrath, who died in 1992, was jailed for 4 years in 1981 for abusing young boys. Kinkora was not mentioned in the church and political leaders' apology. Hart's report criticizes MI5 officers for consistently obstructing police investigations by the Royal Ulster Constabulary and the destruction of MI5's files relating to Kinkora, but it fails to mention MI5's successful pressure on the then Thatcher Of course, why am I not surprised that Thatcher's involved in this? Thatcher government again setting up a full public inquiry with a witness bound by oath and subjected to cross-examination. British ministers, state agencies, and government lawyers have repeatedly blocked attempts by the RUC and courts in Northern Ireland to question MI5's officers. Hart was aware of the pressure placed by MI5 on the police, but he dismissed claims that Britain's security agencies, notably MI5, turned a blind eye to the abuse because of McGrath's role as an informer for the intelligence agency. So because he's like Epstein, they were like, you can just rape children. It's fine. Fucking disgusting. At one point, Hart said his inquiry did, quote, not have sufficient powers to investigate issues relating to the army or MI5. Clockwork Orange. I've actually never seen that movie, just saying. The decades-long cover-up about the British government's attempts to sabotage a fully inquiry has been meticulously documented by Colin Wallace, a former Army information officer in Northern Ireland. Wallace blew the whistle on a dirty trick psychological warfare operation PSYOP, codenamed Clockwork Orange, run by the intelligence agencies. It included the smearing of leading British, notably Labour politicians. Labour is the left wing. Is that correct? Please correct me if I'm right or wrong. After exposing the dirty work, Wallace was himself smeared and framed for the manslaughter of a friend. He was even accused by an official of being, quote, active terrorist. Hamas. He was Hamas. His conviction was subsequently overturned, and an independent investigation by David Colcutt, QC, found that members of MI5 had interfered with disciplinary proceedings against Wallace. But then the Director of Public Prosecution, Sir Alan Green, later told Scotland Yard to drop the Wallace case. What? Some files, such as one titled Wrongful Convictions, Colin Wallace, 1975-90, are listed in the catalog of the National Archives but remain closed. Labour is the left, same way the Dems are the left, but they were more generally left in the past. Okay, thanks, Lennon. Appreciate it. Other documents relating to Kinkora and Wallace's case, which have been made public, include a telex message from MI5's officers in Northern Ireland in 1982 to MI5's legal advisor, Bernard Sheldon. The telex refers to a directive that, quote, no serving or former of the Secretary Service should be interviewed by the police. What? Another contains evidence that the RUC made several unsuccessful attempts to interview a senior MI5 officer, Ian Cameron. He allegedly ordered an Army intelligence officer, Brian Gemmell, to stop investigating allegations of sexual abuse of boys at Kincora, something Gemmell subsequently confirmed. Okay, but like, did he follow? Seems like he did. Seeking justice. The Ministry of Defense, MOD, has also lost or destroyed files relating to Wallace, whose case has been investigated over the years, included by the respected investigative journalist Paul Foote in his book, Who Framed Colin Wallace? Wallace is now pursuing the MOD in courts, claiming aggravated and or exemplary damages arising from the negligence, misfeasance in public office and deceit. He will also be a key witness in a forthcoming High Court hearing in Northern Ireland against the police and agents of the British state brought by a victim of the horrific abuses. I wonder if it's the same victim that was previously, that we read about earlier. In the statement, KRW Law, which represents some of the victims of abuse, appointed to the case of Richard Kerr, who was sexually exploited between the ages of 8 and 18. He claims all investigations and inquiries to date have failed to expose the full extent of the abuse, starting at Williamson House, Kincora, and elsewhere. Kerr said he was, quote, was sent outside the institutions by the house managers to have sex without outside parties. He was raped. I want to make that very clear. He was not having sex. Sex means consensual. He was raped. I want to make that very clear. The statement refers to allegations that state agencies had direct knowledge of the abuses. Obviously, they sent him outside. It also says they exploited that knowledge of Richard Kerr's sexual abuse specifically to enhance intelligence for the British security forces. They forced perpetrators to provide intelligence to the security forces in exchange for silence. This is in Ireland. Like, what are we fucking doing? No wonder the IRA fucking murdered Lord Mountbatten. Hello? The case, the statement continues, included, quote, failures by the RUC to investigate the allegations of abuse at Williamson House and the Kincora boys' home, and the protection of key pedophile figures, including Joe Mains, Eric Witchell, and William McGrath. I don't understand why the fucking Lord Mountbatten is not in this article. In addition, Richard Kerr maintains that no investigation has been conducted, which compiles with human rights standards. State complicity. Kevin Winters of KRW Law told Declassified, we are taking the case to the High Court to expose state complicity in overseeing a regime that facilitated the abuse of young boys to serve a wider intelligence agency and subsequent failures to set up a meaningful and proper investigation. Patrick Corrigan, Northern Ireland Program Director of Amnesty International UK, told Declassified, quote, the Hart inquiry was not compelled all relevant witnesses and files in relation to state involvement, specifically anyone in any files related to the MOD or the security services, and instead had to rely on pledges of cooperation by the UK government. Yeah, that's gonna really fucking work. Rely on the UK government to give you pledges. Okay. As a result, key witnesses refused to come forward to give evidence about Kincora, he said. Shocker. Who's fucking shocked? Corrigan added, meanwhile, we have learned that some Kincora-related files were destroyed by the government as recently 2015. Even as inquiry was underway. 2015 is, that's really, It is clear, he said, that abuse victims from Kincora feel they received, quote, neither truth nor justice from the historical institutional abuse inquiry. That's so sad. Colin Wallace told Declassified, despite all the carefully crafted words contained in the child abuse apologies given by elected representatives, One key word was missing from all of them. Kinkora. Why? Kinkora is like their Epstein. He added, an apology without genuine remorse and total honesty is a failed apology, and an apology that is not genuine may only make matters worse for the victims. I agree. Genuine remorse should not only be communicated through words, but also through actions, and those actions include speaking the truth about what really happened in connection with Kinkora. Will the British government's agencies, including MI5, now do that? Damn. The Northern Ireland Police Ombudsman is now investigating the Kinkora case. Pressure is mounting for Wallace's questions to be answered. This was in 2022. I think the compromise angle may just be alleged, but it is plausible with the links they are going to cover it up. Declassified are so good, they were a big part in exposing the British Air Force spy flights over Gaza. No, this is great work. Thank you for this. Because when I was Googling, it seems like not a lot of people are talking about, except one person posted this, which I think is very interesting. This family is so vile. This was posted February today. This family is so vile. It's not even the first time that Mountbatten was made to answer for raping and killing children. The IRA assassinated Andrew's great uncle Louis, or Lewis, I don't fucking care, in 1979 for being part of yet another pedophile ring. Senior Royal was part of MI5's Irish child abuse network. Lord Mountbatten, the great uncle of England's King Charles, has been abusing children at his Irish estate before he was executed by the IRA. A new book confirms fresh claims that have been made that the British royal, also known as Prince Louis of Battenberg, was involved in the MI5 linked pedophile ring involving the children trafficked from the notorious Kinkora boys' home in Belfast. Repost, like, let's see what else. The current British King Charles' most influential confidant was his honorary grandfather, or Lord Louis Mountbatten. He was a prolific pedophile and abuser of young boys in Ireland, and aided and facilitated by British Secret Service. The IRA assassinated him in 1979. I have thoughts in my head that I will not be saying, but I'm fucking thinking it. That's all I'm gonna say. Did you know the US destroyed FBI dossiers on Lord Mountbatten at the request of the British government after the discovery of a wartime file showed that Mountbatten was a prolific satanic pedophile? I would suggest everyone research the Kinkora boys' home in Belfast, where he raped many boys from the home in the 1970s. The home was ran by British intelligence agencies. Yep, the same intelligence agencies that ran Elm Guest Home in Dolphin Square. I don't know what that... what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Lord Mountbatten was a well-known notorious royal family pedophile known as Uncle Dickie. Ew, that's disgusting. To the WEF, King Charles. Jimmy Savile, there you go, was introduced into the royal family by Lord Mountbatten. The royals absolutely knew what was happening and enabled it. Lord Mountbatten was assassinated in 1979 by the IRA. These people are truly sick and evil. Re-fucking tweet that. I'll save that one. Yeah, they didn't put this in the King Charles 2022. Prince Andrew is a living symbol of the rampant pedophilia that occurs in the British monarchy. The IRA assassinated Lord Mountbatten, King Charles' uncle, in 1979. Mountbatten was a known pedophile who preyed on young boys. It's all out here. This is from Northern Ireland. This is from Irish News. Lord Louis Mountbatten abused children trafficked to his Mulgamore state. Fresh claims of British royal child abuse contained in new book. This is from the Journal. This was in May 2025. New claims Mountbatten sexually abused children from notorious Belfast boys' home. A new book, Kinkora Britain's Shame, alleges that MI5 and the British political establishment covered up abuse that took place at Kincora. I was raped by Mountbatten in Kincora at age 11. He wasn't a lord to me. He was king of the pedophiles. Veteran journalist Chris Moore interviewed 3 victims of the senior royal killed by the IRA in 1979 for his new book on the most enduring child sex scandal in the history of the UK. He says the story won't go away despite a huge establishment cover-up. This was in 2025. I think I'm going to be sick. King Charles III's favorite uncle accused of raping a boy. I don't know how I can get that closer.
The relationship between pedophile Jimmy Savile and Prince Charles. Who is Jimmy Savile? Jimmy Savile was publicly exposed as a pedophile following his death in 2011. And you can hear all about him in the Netflix documentary Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story. Between 1986 and 2006, Prince Charles sought for advice from Jimmy Savile. Some of the contents of these letters were a little sus. For instance, Prince Charles wanted Jimmy to meet with his sister-in-law, Sarah Ferguson. And I quote, "I think she could do with some of your straightforward common sense." No clear evidence has come out to show that Prince Charles knew that Jimmy Savile was a pedophile, but I'm not quite convinced. Following his death, 450 people came forward alleging his abuse and assault. And that's not counting all of the victims who didn't come forward themselves.
Jesus
like June and
Christ.
Jennifer Gibbons, also known as the Silent Twins, who could have been victimized by Savile during their stay at Broadmoor Hospital. Prior to Savile's death, many of his victims had actually gone forward to the police and told them of what Savile had done. In 1998, an anonymous letter got sent to the police that said, "The relationship between pedophile Jimmy..."
That's fucking insane. Oh, God. So there's 2 pedophile rings that are being covered up. Epstein and this one. But MI5 is not going to be talked about. Sarah Ferguson is also close. Yep. Yes, this is the Sarah Ferguson's ex-wife to... What the fuck is his name? The Andrew.